So depending on where you live in the world, this is the BenQ W2700 or the HT3550. Now this is a 4K projector, it's one of their newest models, so let's take a closer look and see how good it is. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell to get my next video first. So for a while now, BenQ have really been improving the look of projectors. In fact, this projector is by far the best looking projector that we have ever tested. In fact, the one previous to that was also a BenQ one. And that was this, which was the BenQ GV1. Quite simply stunning. And no matter which direction you look at this projector, you'll just be happy. It will make you smile. The build quality is insanely good. It feels just not like any projector that we've looked at before. It really is very special. But my friends, it's not all about the emotional look of a projector, it's about what it does and how it delivers. Now, one thing that is very good about this one is it comes pre-calibrated, and you actually get a report from BenQ with that calibration test. In the box itself are all the usual things. I'm not going to bore you. Let's go on to unwrapping the projector, which I've shown you too much of it already, but very soon guys I'll show you the picture and we'll go through some of the stats and some of the pros and cons of this machine. We'll come on to some individual and unique features in just a second, but some of the main stats are that this is a pixel shifting technology giving you 3840 by 2160 resolution. It has contrast ratio of 30,000:1 and ANSI lumens of 2000. It uses DLP technology, but that is one of the newer chips. This is also a 3D machine and it downscales it to 1080p, which is good because other like-for-like ones do 1080i. And this is also HDR10 and it is a very good HDR10. And again, we'll try and show you that in just a few moments. This projector really does hold its own in terms of sound with two great quality 5-watt speakers, one of the best that we've heard definitely. It has keystone correction that is vertical and that can be in automatic mode or in manual mode. And it's pleasant to see that there is lens shift up to 100 to 110 degrees, so a 10-degree vertical lens shift. The throw ratio is 1.13 to 1.47. The acoustic noise is between 30 decibels and 28 decibels and it does have a silence mode. Now this is a new machine and as you would expect the connectivity is therefore pretty good, and some of those highlights include an HDMI 2.2, in fact there's two of those, and there's also a USB 3 which will play media, and it will play media in 4K. There is a RS232 VGA in and also a 12-volt trigger, so it's got all of the usual things that you'd expect, so nothing really disappoints here. This projector also comes with one of the best remote controls that we've seen, and yes, it's also backlit, but there's so many functions that you can access directly from the controller, so you're not having to scroll through and fiddle through lots of different complicated menus, and that, I can tell you, will save a lot of time. Okay, so you've all been patient enough. Let's now have a look at some of the images that this produces. Now you select your source and then you just go into whatever you're playing. And as you can see from this, right out of the box, no settings have been changed at all. The color reproduction is incredibly fantastic. It's the best I've ever seen on a projector. Out of the box, the colors will just blow you away. There's actually 5 different modes that you can switch between. There's cinema, digital cinema, bright, vivid, and also user. Now, depending on the size of the screen that you're using and the brightness of the room will probably depend on which one is for you. Certainly the one that nobody will use, I don't even know why it's there, is bright. It just looks like the Incredible Hulk has visited. But for me, in my room with a roughly 100-inch screen, it's really digital cinema or vivid, which is the best for me. Now, I have heard that if you've got a larger screen up around 200 inches, then cinema may be best for you, but that's your choice. So you should also be really pleased whether it be a 4K content or 1080p. Now sometimes 4K projectors don't handle 1080p that well, but as you can see, this video is of the BenQ GV1 that I mentioned earlier, and yes, this is in 1080p, but it's doing a brilliant job. The blacks are good, the colors are good, and again, it's all about the color reproduction. Now coming on to color reproduction, there's a few things that you ought to know. Now, using the trademark BenQ cinematic color, it represents and recreates Dci P3 to 95% and Rec 709 to 100%. Now, that is the first time on a 4K DLP projector that these types of figures have been achieved. And what that effectively means is that you are getting far more accurate colors to what the actual film director intended the film to look, and much more akin to a cinema. I mentioned earlier about color reproduction and HDR10, and in this type of image you can get an idea of what I mean. I will zoom in just a second, but these achievements or these improvements have been made by changing things both in the software and also in the hardware. So in the hardware there's now a 10-element lens array, and you've also got dynamic iris. And from a software point of view, you now get HDR tone mapping. And if I zoom in even closer, you'll see you get a better idea of the level of detail, the different levels of colors and blacks, yet you're still getting the individual skin tones and also the differences in the colors of the hair. None of those are blown out at all, and it's still very detailed. So this is a perfect example of the improvements made. This projector is also pretty clever because when it detects that HDR10 is present, it will automatically switch it over to that mode, and so therefore you don't have to set up any user mode for it. You can just literally trust that it will make that change automatically. There are many options that you can change on the screen, and in these on-screen displays that you can see, you can change and enhance pixels and enhance the motion. Motion is something which you'd maybe want to do if you were watching a sports event and it just smooths out some of the images if you're getting a judder. You've got to be careful not to do that in terms of cinematic films because it can end up making it almost look soap opera in its operation. I did mention at the beginning of this review that I would also mention a couple of negatives. Now, the good news is if you're purchasing this machine, there are hardly any. In fact, this is probably one of the best value machines for everything that's got going for it in this price bracket, which I'll come on to in just a second. A couple of the negatives though. If you are a very serious gamer, then you may find that you need to look for a different machine. This is not the fastest in terms of input lag. Now, it is measured at around about 50 milliseconds to 60 milliseconds, but in my tests it was more up around the 70 milliseconds, which is just a little bit slow for competitive gaming. Now, if you are just a occasional gamer like me, you will not even notice the difference, and so therefore I wouldn't say that this is a absolute no for gamers. The other thing that I just noticed, which I will do a comparison very shortly, but I just thought that this just wasn't quite as pin sharp as maybe some of the Optimas that I've looked at recently. So I've recently looked at the UHL55, and in fact I've still got that here in the studio, and I will be doing a comparison on that exactly, which one is the best image in terms of sharpness. Now, I would say, however, that the BenQ out of the box has got the best color, so therefore that's something which maybe will trade off against each other. So before we go on to the main advantages and the summary, remember to hit the red button and subscribe, because the next video we'll do is this, the BenQ HT3550. And this is a slightly cheaper 4K model, but it will give you a very good comparison compared to this, which is the BenQ W2700. Now, the main advantages of this machine are the color production, the fact that it has that auto HDR10, the pre-calibration for the setup and the report it gives you is a really nice touch, and if you still use 3D, then this 3D is pretty good. I think that this is superb value for money because of everything that it offers. Now, there is also a great remote control, which again with BenQ, I know they've been doing that for a while, but I do really like. But one of the big advantages, and especially if this is maybe one of your first projectors, is the fact that out of the box, this will set up in a breeze and give you a quite simply stunning image. I'm going to spend the next month or so putting this through its paces and also doing comparison videos against other machines that are out there, including BenQ models. Now, if you are interested in purchasing this, then please do consider using my affiliate link in the description. That will guarantee you the cheapest price available on Amazon, and that link is there for you to check out. And that will be for the US, the UK, and also Canada. Thanks ever so much for watching this video. Let me know what your thoughts are and if there's a particular setting that you would recommend. Thanks again, my friends. I will see you on the next video.